841 and K-Fire Guns in the 701. I don't know if they belong in the C-suite or not, but that's all right. They're good people. How you guys doing?
Good, Todd.
Fantastic. I didn't realize...
You have a good trip?
Hey, yeah. You know what? Every once in a while, you just need to get out, do that reset, and then realize what a great place you live in when you get home, because...
Boy, ain't that the truth, especially when you go to the East Coast.
Oh, man. Colonial Virginia is just, it's too claustrophobic. And, of course, my wife asks, how come the streets are so narrow? Well, you don't need that much of a street when a horse passes a horse. And that's right. What it was all about back then. Now It's a suburban passing a suburban, and it's tricky, but you figure it out, I guess. I'm amazed those people can parallel park those things in those little streets like that, but... Yeah. So darn good to be home. Simple as that. Hawaii knife ban unconstitutional. I didn't realize you could ban knives. I get you don't want them on planes and stuff like that, which Hawaii
Why not?
Means an airplane. But trust me, it's not the knife, it's the person. And in case we don't happen to ban that, but I think once you're on the island, you should be able to defend yourself, though, don't you think?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was kind of archaic and crazy anyway that they even had that kind of a restriction over there to begin with. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, 1999, that's when the Democrats kind of took over everything, and I guess it makes sense that then they would enact crazy things like knife control, which is what they did. And what it is it was butterfly knives or bail songs, which are pretty much similar in their design. And it got challenged finally in 2020. The ban on the butterfly knives, it was challenged in court. The district court, of course, upheld it. But here recently, on August 7th, the Ninth Circuit Court went ahead and reversed that. What is interesting, though, is that they used the Bruin case. It's kind of amazing that they actually referred to knives as arms, which I think arms is anything to defend yourself. And that is the key, the Heller case and the Bruin. Go ahead, Jamie.
No, yeah, I'm just agreeing with you, Clay. You bet. Knives are. I can promise you. What the Second Amendment was around, they were putting bayonets on the end of their rifles. That was part of that, and I can assure you, when combat was going down for the Revolution, there was plenty of knives being used to secure the freedom of this country.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it was kind of, when you read through the actual statement from that three-judge panel, they actually kind of referenced those kinds of things, saying that historically knives hadn't been regulated. In fact, they were exempted a lot of times from any kind of rules. And that goes all the way back to what you were saying. They've been in use. They've been in circulation without problems. And basically, a law-abiding citizen can possess them because they're considered arms, and that just because a few bad apples in the crowd use them, you can't say that that's the primary use of a knife is for ill intent. Basically, it is for lawful purposes, and you can't. I mean, that'd be like saying, oh, that guy took his car and drove it through a crowd. We better ban all cars because it was an illegal intent. Well, we all know that's not true. It's one bad idiot that went out and did it. So that was kind of the premise of the whole case, and I'm glad to see it. It can still be overturned. It's still got to go through another procedure, but it's also important to point out that all three of these judges, one was Carlos T.B. He's actually born in Spain, and then he played basketball in Cuba. That was before the Castro insurgency, I'll call it, the revolution as they like to call it too. He was appointed by George Bush. The other two came, Judge Daniel Collins, he was appointed by Donald Trump in 2019, and Judge Kenneth Lee, he was appointed by Donald Trump in 2019. Now, remember, President Trump, he filled as many of those lower court openings that had existed for really decades as he could. And we're seeing the benefits of this, not just at the Supreme Court, but now through all of these smaller courts. So elections matter, guys. They really do. It's very important who's the president when it comes to these judge appointments.
That should be a bumper sticker on everybody's car or truck right now. Elections matter.
Absolutely, they do.
Those of us who are old enough to remember the hanging Chad thing in Florida kind of
Oh,
remember that, it turns out every vote does matter.
It really does, and we saw that
on
one.
the rooftops.
Yeah. You know, it's
Clay,
we saw,
I got
we
one
saw
more.
elections challenged many times, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. Go ahead, James.
So Hawaii, in opposition to this, they cite some conclusory statements in the legislative history claiming that butterfly knives are associated with criminals. Well, so are cars. Criminals have taken cars in Wisconsin and driven through crowds of people and killed them. So I don't see cars being banned for that reason. You know, common sense will tell you that all portable arms are associated with criminals to some extent. And I think this statement's pretty ridiculous. And Hawaii submitted no evidence that butterfly knives are typically possessed by law-abiding citizens.
Did you know that some criminals use their fists? Are those going to be outlawed too? Or?
Yeah. Criminals use everything. Baseball bats, which kill more people every year than the dreaded AR-15. So, and which we're going to talk about a little later here. But they're trying to ban. If you want to ban everything that criminals use, we won't have anything left. And you know, like Clay said earlier, there's no reason we use something lawfully. If criminals use it wrong, there's no reason we should be banned from owning that legal product.
We remember the movie
Ridiculous.
Karate, Open Hand. You can't use an open hand either. God, what are we going to do here? Put your hands in your pockets and just Guns of the 701. You're on K-Fire. The headline says, no different than friggin' grizzly bears. Well, I would say the trap is going to have to be a little different, but what's going on there in Wyoming?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago here now, Todd, 3 women were attacked on the Jefferson River in Montana. One of them went to the hospital. I saw some pictures of her. She did have some gnarly bite wounds on her face and her arms and the rest of her body. And rancher Tim Thompson in Wyoming said he's even more convinced now that Wyoming should allow otter trapping and taking care of the population, because right now otters are actually a protected species in Wyoming. Mr. Thompson said they're getting aggressive. They're not afraid of humans. And like you said, Todd, they're no different than friggin' grizzly bears, he said, when they get down around houses and campgrounds. There needs to be some control, and it should be likewise for otters, which are getting increasingly common in this Sublette County down in Wyoming. Mike Schmidt, also around from that area, he's a local there, said a few years ago here some young boys are floating on the river. They got attacked by some otters. And they were chewed up pretty bad as well. It required a bunch of stitches, and I mean, if they're going to do stuff like that, they need to be controlled. You know, some people say they're cute. You know, you can't do that to them. And he says he doesn't care how cute they are. They need to be taken off the list and listed as fur bearers and be trapped. And you know, I prefer to just shoot them. But if people want to trap them and use their fur, that's great. You know, some people are trying to stock their dams with fish there, and these otters get in there and eat all their rainbow trout up and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I agree that they probably have to do something if they're getting out of hand. If one of these things, you know, you're floating down around your inner tube, drinking your beer, your twisted tea or whatever you are, and they come swimming out 3-4 of them, I guess you better get ready for some combat with them.
No doubt. I think we got Clay back here. What, would you not bring enough quarters or what?
Hey, I lost you guys there. I'm back, I think.
Yep, I think you're back.
Oh, okay. I missed what you guys were saying there, but I'm going to add something to this story if you haven't already.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it has to do with game and fish. So, you know, Game and Fish says that they don't have any kind of basically trapping season because the populations are low. But in that same regulation, when you go on their website and read it, it also says that they don't have they have limited monitoring of these otters. Mm-hmm. And that all they do is update their range and their distribution maps submitted on observations by, quote, staff or public. And then in the same breath, it goes on and talks about how trappers actually go back to the remote locations more than other people, which is probably true. So how on earth can they even tell what the population is? They're claiming they don't want to allow any kind of trapping because populations are low, but admittedly on their website, they really don't know what the population is of river otters. I think there needs to be a little bit more done to this, and I would say I'd take the word of trappers and people who are out there a heck of a lot more than I would people sitting in cubicles.
That's
Yeah,
darn
and
good point.
This his rancher, the Thompson, he said they go out on their ranch now and they see these things, and they're walking along the creek and they start growling and hissing at them. I didn't even know otters were this aggressive, actually. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of people are probably really don't know that otters do this sort of thing, but apparently there's some feisty little critters. So, they look down the river there, the Jefferson River. You better maybe pack yourself a handgun.
Guns in the 701. Leave it to them to give you that bit of advice. A mayor announcing plans to outlaw AR-15s, AK-47s, and military-style weapons, and hopes criminals will comply. Because that's, first of all, that's what you do when you pass laws, is you hope people will comply. But what is that going to accomplish?
Nothing except intrusion on law-abiding people once again. It's funny, and this is in St. Louis. This is in Missouri, which is, predominantly their gun laws aren't horrible down there.
Yeah, but I bet the people in Missouri would gladly ship St. Louis off to Illinois and just let them have that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they would. Kind of like we'll give Fargo. They can just have them. Minnesota can have them.
Precisely.
Just like Sioux Falls can go over it there as well.
It's true.
Yeah, and basically, I love the language. This Tashara Jones, the mayor, the commie down there, she wants to take guns away from those individuals who are convicted of, and this is important, insurrection or hate crimes. How have we heard that before? That's the terminology they're using now. They want to paint everybody as an insurrectionist, and you know what? It's kind of like I got kind of torqued off years ago because they were misusing, to me, the word hero. Everybody was a hero all of a sudden, which it lost the meaning of what a true hero was. Well, it's the same thing here. Insurrections are a real thing, but what we're seeing here right now is not an insurrection in these cities as far as people who might be doing bad things with guns. That's not an insurrection. That's just a mentally ill person, probably got a lot of problems, most likely. And that's what they're basing it on.
Crime.
What's that?
That's a hate crime, Clayton.
Oh, it's got to be, don't it?
Guns away, that's a hate crime. Just saying that's a hate crime, buddy.
Well, isn't every crime a hate crime?
I would think so. I guess if I don't like you and I'm going to take my assault bat or my assault hammer and come over there and bash your head in, I'm pretty sure that's a hate crime if I did it. I don't know how you paint that any other way, and obviously I would have a problem if I did that. And they use the terminology military grade weapons. So, I mean, they use terminology is everything.
Hold on a second, Clayton. Hold on a second. Military grade. Are bolt action rifles military rifles?
Yes, they are. Have been used for centuries.
Yeah. Muskets, as I said earlier, I mentioned the Revolutionary War. Muskets are military-grade rifles. Don't ever forget that, people. Democrats want every single gun in this country, and they want to melt them down and grind them up. Everything's a bow and arrow is a military-grade weapon.
Absolutely.
A fist, an open hand, they're all military-grade weapons. I mean, what do we have left?
Yeah, that's called the pimp hand, Todd. When you give them the backhand, it's called the pimp hand nowadays.
Guns in the 701. Guns, open hands, and fists in the 701. And knives in the 701.
One more thing, Todd.
Yes.
Hey, Todd, last month, Mayor Jones had leaked text messages to her dad and one of her aides, and it said Chicago has strict gun laws as well, but that doesn't deter gun violence. And here she is trying to ban guns from people. So that just shows you what a massive phony this woman is.
Well, it's not going to work anyway, right? I mean, what are we really thinking here? It's no gun ban is going to work. It's just not. Stop it.
Her hope is going to be crushed.
Yeah. Guns of the 701. Make sure you check them out on KFYR Plus from KFYR TV. And Jay Dillon on Mondays. What time?
That'd be 11:30 Mountain Time, 12:30 Central. Of course, you don't want to miss us on the best iHeart podcast around. Just head over to iHeart, and you can check us out there as well.
That's right. They told me you got to promote an iHeart podcast, and I can't think of a better one than Guns in the 701. So I'll probably promote you guys.
The best.
Hey, take care. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and careful with that open hand. It could, hurt somebody. Hey, a finger could poke an eye out. That means a finger's a military-grade weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
My God, what are we going to
Good
do?
weekend, buddy.
You too. Take care. Guns of the 701. Coming up close to 9 o'clock, and there, Leeson, you're talking happy birthday. Riker Wagner of Mandan, 14 tomorrow. Brecca Schultz of New Salem, 35. Esley Weiss of Bismarck, happy 10.